Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. How are you this morning? It is nice to be here. I can't do more than one thing. That we are live, and let me just do this first. One thing at a time. I'm not that multitasking kind of person. I will mess something up. Good morning, Patrick. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Jesus, Joan, and Journal. We are on day 23, January the 23rd. We have 8 more days and we're into February. It is actually Aquarius season. I know that because my daughter keeps posting it. Her birthday is February 13th. And I think January 21st was the change from, whatever that thing was to Aquarius. And so she keeps talking about it. But this morning we have a great topic. By the way, if you're joining me for the first time because somebody sent you this video, have never seen me before, my name is Joan T. Randall. I'm the founder of Victorious You Press. We help people write and publish their best-selling books so that they can monetize their impact and their influence, build multiple streams of income, and create legacies, right? That's what we do. I'm also the Women's Ministry Director for I Believe God Ministries International, which is my church ministry. And this is my 6th year doing Jesus, Joan, and Journal in January. I usually do it January and July, but some Julys I don't do it depending on how I feel, right? But we do it in January. And this time we're doing it we're in week 4, right? We have covered a lot up to this point. And so week 4, the focus for week 4 is walking in purpose and power, living boldly in your God-given calling. And on Monday, we talked about our identity in Christ. On Tuesday, we talked about being led by the Spirit. On Wednesday, which was yesterday, we talked about taking bold action. And today, I want to talk about overcome opposition. Overcome opposition. And that is very poignant for a time such as this, with all the changes that are happening in our communities, in the country, all across the world. We have to figure out how to overcome the opposition. There are times when you will want to step out in faith and do certain things, and people will oppose you or tell you not to. Good morning, Lisa, or tell you not to because they don't feel like you should do it based on your history or knowing them for a long time. But I'm gonna share a scripture this morning and give you a backstory of someone in the Bible who never allowed the opposition to stop him from the vision that God had placed in his heart. And he did a few things to make sure that that vision stayed intact, right? And I'm going to cover those briefly here and then go back in a little bit more details. First of all, he got the vision and he wrote the vision, right? That was the first thing that he do. He wrote it. He wanted, because he knew in his heart what he wanted to accomplish. And once he wrote the vision, he had a plan as to how he wanted the vision to be executed. And then what he did was went and he asked permission, right? He asked permission. He sought after the things that he needed to do to make this happen. And then he used his knowledge and he gathered the people around him who were willing to be a part of what he was doing, and they were able to execute the vision. Now, did it come with opposition? You bet it did. But because he had this layout, he was not going to allow any opposing team, any opposition to stop him from what God had, the vision that God had given him, what he desired to get done, and executing it all the way to the end. And this morning, I want to just give you that message. Don't let any opposition or any person at all stop you from walking out your destiny. And that even means you, Don't let you stop you from walking out what it is that God has called you to do. And so I want to get in this. What does it mean to overcome opposition? Number one, it means to stand against challenges. There is going to be, in everything you do, there's going to be a challenge. In everything you do, there's going to be a challenge. Going into it, you have to know that there is going to be a challenge, but it is truly up to you to stand up, believe in you, grab the power that God had placed in you, and stand against those challenges. Even if sometimes you've got to stand against your brother, your sister, your husband, your wife, your friends, your neighbors, because you know that God had placed this on your heart. Good morning, Minister Hope, Raz and Shah, my love. So I want to talk about this guy called Nehemiah. Nehemiah. I want to talk to you about Nehemiah. And I'm just going to read one verse from Nehemiah 4. I'm going to give you a little bit of backstory. And then I'm going to show you with all those words I gave you just now, how he stood up against the opposition. Good morning, Shania. Nice to see you. How he stood up against the opposition. So I'm going to read from Nehemiah 4 and verse 14. That's where I want to go this morning. And it reads, then I'll give you the backstory. After I looked things over, I stood up and said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, don't be afraid of them. Good morning, Minister Stacy. Don't be afraid of them. That's what he said. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome, and fight for your families. Fight for your sons and your daughters, your wives and your homes. That is a lot. That is a lot right there. And I want to break it down. Good morning, Sister Karen. Nice to see you. Minister Hope says, that is my man. Oh my God. My man, Mr. Nehemiah. Karen said, good morning, my dear friend. God bless you, my sister in Christ. I will be listening to you. And I know that I will. Oh, thank you, my sweetheart. I appreciate you. All right. So let me give you the backstory about this. Nehemiah was in sadness. He was in sorrow because the walls of the city of Jerusalem had fallen because of all the war and all the things, right? And he wept. It was a disgrace the way the walls of Jerusalem was broken down. This was a place that was significant in the life of Nehemiah as a Jewish man, as an Israelite. Now, here's the thing. He worked for a king, King Artaxerxes, King Artaxerxes, okay? King Artaxerxes, right? That's the king he worked for. Now, this king was not a Jew at all, but this king had an affinity for the Jewish people, right? Because earlier, okay, well, in the Bible, it's earlier so let me back up a little bit. This king had an affinity for the Jewish people because he married a Jewish woman. Okay. Now, the way the Bible is not in chronological order. So the book of Nehemiah comes before the book of Ruth, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, all of this thing, right? So Nehemiah, the book after Nehemiah is actually Esther. But truth be told, Esther should have come before Nehemiah, but it didn't. But if you truly are like reading for understanding and getting into it, if you go to the book of Esther and read the story about the beautiful Esther and what she did in saving her people, this is the after effect of what Queen Esther did. However, Nehemiah comes before the book of Esther, which means it should have been flipped, but that's for another day. That's a whole nother time. And so the Jerusalem wall was broken down, and he was sad. He was in sadness, right? He was in sorrow, and he prayed and he asked God. He mourned and he wept and he prayed and he fasted. But while Nehemiah was mourning and praying and fasting, he was asking for forgiveness on behalf of his people. Good morning, Damien. Good morning, sir. Nice to see you. How are you? He was asking for forgiveness on behalf of his people, right? And then he was reminding God of all of the greats before him. Lord, remember the promises to your servant Moses. Lord, remember the promises to all the servants that come before us. Lord, be attentive to my prayer. This is your servant. Lord, give your servant success by granting him favor in the presence of this man. And when he said this man, he was talking about the king, because at the time, Nehemiah was the cupbearer to King Artaxerxes, okay, however you say his name. And so he approached the king. Nehemiah had a plan in mind. I want to rebuild the wall of Jerusalem. It is in my heart. God had given me the vision, and I want to rebuild that wall. And so Nehemiah, before he even set out to ask for the things that he would need to build the wall, he prayed about it. He took it to God. Okay, that's number one. You have the vision, you have the mission in your heart. You know that this is what you want to do. Go to God in prayer. Nehemiah fasted and he prayed because he knew that he needed to get this done. And so in that whole time that he took in worship, in fasting, in praying, in asking for forgiveness, in asking for in repenting and all of that, he was doing it not just by himself. He was doing it for all of his folks. He was the representation of the rebuilding of the wall of Jerusalem. And I'm sharing this with you because I want you to understand what it means to overcome opposition. When God placed a vision in your heart and you know you need to do it, and people are telling you that you cannot, that you can't. Good morning, Pastor Lexi. So let me just get back to this scripture. And there's a reason why I want to go to the concordance too, right? So Nehemiah, and it's a fantastic book. I mean, you have to read through. Let me tell you, the Old Testament, man, if you can really just get into it and understand the Old Testament, the prophecies, the main prophets and then the lower prophets, and understand their prophecies, so many things. By the time you get to the New Testament, you understand. You understand it even better. So Nehemiah 4 and verse 14 is what I want to get to. And it says, after I looked things over, I stood up and said to the nobles, the officials, and the rest of the people, don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome, and fight for your families, your sons and your daughters, your wives, and your homes. Like he's telling them, don't let anything stop you from what God is telling you that you need to do. Good morning, Sister Jackie. Good morning, Queen Esther. Thank you for joining from YouTube. I appreciate you. Right. And he was saying, listen, you are with me now. Don't be afraid of anything, because God is going to be with you. And yesterday I talked about afraid, right? When I was talking about taking bold action, the word is Yahweh in the Hebrew term, right? And Yahweh, Yawray, means to be afraid, right? To stand in awe of, to be in awe. And you can take that in two different ways, right? The fear of God and fear of man is completely different. When I say I fear the Lord, I reverence him. When I say I'm afraid to do something, it means I'm timid. I don't want to do it. I'm not sure that I have what it takes to carry this out. But so that could be looked at in several different ways. So when he said, "Don't be afraid," because I know that, this is the plan that God gave me, and we're going to carry it out. And so Nehemiah, he had, here's what he had. He had the vision, right? He wrote, he prayed about it, he fasted about it, he prayed about it, he fasted about it, he prayed, he fasted, he gave it to God. And then he asked God for the favor. Why? Because he knew he had to carry it out. So he had the vision, he had a plan, and then his next move was to ask. His next move was to ask. A-S-K. He went to ask the king for the provision to carry this out, right? He sought after the things that he needed, the skills that was needed for the men to help build the wall, right? He used his knowledge to put the people together. A-S-K. He asked, A. He sought, seek. He knocked, knowledge, right? To get everything that he needed to execute this thing. And then he gathered all the people together to execute it. And there were a ton of opposition. And I'm not going to go into the rest of it, but as you read down into the rest of of Nehemiah 4, you will see all of the opposition that he got. And so they had a plan around the opposition, right? Damon said, great message with so many good points. If I were to have a favorite, oh my God, I'm telling you. And so what he did, he had all different kind of oppositions, right? And so the people that were with him were scared because there's some people outside of them that did not want that wall to be rebuilt. Number one, the opposition did not want the wall to be rebuilt, but there were people that were also a part of the Jewish people that were afraid of the trouble that may happen because he wanted to rebuild this wall. So he was getting opposition from both sides of the fence, if you truly think about it. And that is why I say to you, right, that sometimes your opposition even comes from within your own family, your own friends, your own community, the people that you trust. And Nehemiah was saying, think about your wives. Think about your families. Think about your sons and your daughters. Think about them. Think about the people that are closest to you. Build it for them. Do it for them. Carry out the plan for them. Set up the legacy for them. This was not about Nehemiah. This was a bigger purpose. This was acknowledging and honoring all of those who came before Nehemiah. And God gave him the vision to rebuild the wall that was destroyed. And that was to leave a legacy for those who were to come. And so this morning, our topic is not about Nehemiah per se, but is to draw the parallel to you today. So many of you say, I love the book of Nehemiah, but have you applied the lessons of Nehemiah to your life? When you think about the gift and the skills and the talents and the treasures and all the things that God has placed in you for the work he has called you to do, if you love the book of Nehemiah, have you taken any of the steps, any of the strategies of Nehemiah to walk out what you are called to do? And that is the question I have for you this morning. Good morning, Eskanda. Good morning, Regina. Nice to see you. Good morning, Lisa. I think Lisa already said good morning to you. But that's my question to you, right? The book of Nehemiah still lives today. And you know what I want to share with you? Let me tell you something, right? And I'm going to give you this picture, right? And then I'm going to let that sink in. When we look at people like Mark Zuckerberg, we look at Elon Musk, we look at the guy that owned Amazon, and we sit and we criticize them all the time, right? They're this, they're that, they're not believers, they're that, they're multi-billionaires, they're blah, 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 blah. But one of the things I want to share with you is that they are the Nehemiahs right now. They are the Nehemiahs. Why? They got one idea, one vision, and they executed the vision to the 100th degree in everything they did. And if you go back and look at Mark Zuckerberg, it was an idea to start a platform where friends can connect with friends that they haven't seen in a long time. It started in his, college room. If you look at the Amazon guy, he opened his garage and started a bookstore in his garage to exchange new and used books. And now we have Amazon. Mark Zuckerberg, now we have Meta, right? And you look at all these men, they used, and they may not even realize it, they used the Nehemiah process to dominate. And we, most of us that are in this space, that call ourselves Christians and believers, are the ones that do not use our gifts. We read the Bible day in and day out, and we have all of these examples, and yet we allow fear and intimidation and what other people will say to stop us from being the best of who we're called to be. And then we turn around and we criticize these men who may have never read the Bible, but got one vision from God and maximized it. And I'm saying that about them because they never got an inheritance. They didn't get an inheritance. You know, we know that there are other people out there that got inheritance and then made it to billionaire status. I'm talking about the average guy who started their business in a garage and built on it and built on it. Because here's the thing about God, the Holy, when he gives you a gift, he gives the gifts to all of us. There's no separation of who get the gift. It's not the Christians get the gift and the non-Christians get the gift. God sent us here with the seeds. All of us have the seeds, but the seed has to be worked for the fruits to bear. And these men worked the seeds. So we can sit back and we can criticize Meta and all the things he's doing now and the disruption that's being caused because of all the things. But baby, you cannot take credit from him because he did a Nehemiah right now in modern day time. That is what I'm talking about. They didn't care about the naysayers. They didn't care about what was happening. They didn't care about what other people were saying, that this not going to work. Don't do it. You've never seen it before. They had an idea and they ran with the idea and never allowed the opposition to stop them. They did not allow criticism. They did not allow challenges. They did not allow money to stop them. I'm going to say this to you. The owner of Starbucks had a vision and he wanted to carry out his vision. Amen. Work the seeds. That's what I'm talking about, Pastor. They work the seed. And yet we in the Christian faith who should have been working our seed drag our feet because we don't have faith in the God we talk about every day. And the ones that are not worshiping God every single day, they're walking in their purpose. Something is wrong with that picture. Something is wrong with that picture. But I also believe, right, that the wealth of the wicked is laid up for the righteous. But if you ain't working, you ain't gonna get none of that wealth. If you are gonna let the opposition of others stop you, you ain't gonna get none of it. Because the one thing I know, you get nothing without the work. Discipline, self-control, work ethic, actions, commitment, consistency, that's what drive results. It's not sitting in a mediocre perspective. It's not sitting in comfort. And it doesn't take overnight. It takes years. So if you start and you don't get the result, don't stop, just keep pushing. Starbucks, the owner of Starbucks, I just shared this last week, I think. I read something that says it took him 17 years to make a profit. Not that he wasn't making money, but everything that was coming into the business needed to go back into the business. Everything that was coming in needed to go back in. Everything that was coming in needed to go back out. That's what I meant to say, right? So he was operating from a surplus, but the surplus needed to go back into the business to make the business run successfully, paying his staff, operating the buildings, paying all the rents and leases and all of that stuff. It took 17 years for him to have this huge profit. That encouraged me. You have no idea how that encouraged me. You have absolutely no idea how that encouraged me. Right? So what I want to leave you with this morning is that you must have a vision. You must write it down. You must pray about it, fast about it, talk to God about it. Let God give you the direction. God is going to give you 3 things once you are ready to put the plan in place. Write the plan that you want, even if it looks like it will never come to pass. Write the plan. I know I get a little excited talking about these things. Write the plan. And when you write it, I want you to take one action in these 3 areas, ASK. One action in the ASK. Who am I going to talk to? Who am I going to ask for their help, for their support, for their coaching, for their counseling, for their mentoring? Who am I going to ask? Nehemiah went to the king, the man of the man, the head of the man, the head of who he worked for. Nobody else. It was the best person to go for, right? He sought his help. And in seeking his help, he got more than what he asked for. He got way more than what he asked for. Not only did he get what he asked for, but he got more. He got a whole security to go with him. Protection for where he was going. Right? And who do you know with the knowledge of where you want to go that can help you get there? Why? Because you're not alone in this. You can't do it alone. He could have never rebuilt the wall by himself. He had to ask for resources, and in asking for resources and seeking, all of the things that are necessary to build the wall and getting people who were knowledgeable to help him. That's ASK, ask, seek, knock. That's the strategy. That's the Nehemiah strategy. Who can you partner with? Who is in the space that you want to get to that you can tap on the shoulder and said, can I be your mentee or can I pay you to help me Can you give me a coaching session on this? Instead of sitting there not knowing what to do, or go learn it. Where can I Google? I want to learn how to be a project manager. Google it. Go to Udemy, go to a Coursera, take a class in a college, an evening class, what do you call it? Continuing education class. Do something. But don't just sit there and wait. And then you have the nerve to say you're waiting on God. That is a cop out. And that is a lie that you're telling on God. Don't tell me you are waiting on God, because you're lying on the Creator. That's a lie. He already gave it to you. You know what it is. You think about it all the time. You desire to do it, but you don't have the courage to move past fear. You allow what you see online or what you see with your own two natural eyes to prevent you from walking out your gifts. The next thing, once you write it, once you pray about it, once you write the vision, once you come up with a plan, once you pray about it, once you ASK it, then you gather your people, or you gather whoever, or gather yourself, and you execute. You do, DOIT. And don't tell me you're waiting until something is, listen. When I started Victorious You Press, I did not have a website. I did not have a website. I started Victorious You Press with a Facebook business page, with a Calendly link, and Stripe as a payment option, as my payment option. That's it, 3 things. Why? I could have said, let me wait until I build my website before I start this. I did not. I ran Victorious You Press for 1 entire year, having clients after clients after clients without a website. Why? Because I knew that if somebody says, I want to book an appointment with you. Can you show me your website? I'm going to show them me. Because my website is not who they're after. They're after what I have. So the website is nothing without Joan T. Randall. So instead of sending them to a website, I said, how about I send you a link so we can talk? And 90% of every person I speak with paid me to publish their book with 0 website. 0 website. So don't tell me you're waiting on a website. Don't tell me you have to build something over there. Don't tell me you got to wait on this when God is saying, what is taking you so long? And here's the thing. If you don't do it, God is going to get somebody else to do it. And even if God has to go out there in the world, in the pot of the world with the non-believers, God is going to get a non-believer for them to execute his vision, because you sitting on the seed and playing with it. God is going to say, all right, I'm going to put that same vision in the mind of somebody out there in the world and watch them execute. We can't allow the non-believers to be doing while we are the brides. Man, you got to think that through. Think that through. It's time. It is time for you to walk in the gifting. It's time for you to take. Yes, whoever is willing is going to get it done. Whoever is willing. You know how many times I've given people ideas about something and they say, yes, I'm going to do it. And then I turn around and I see somebody else doing the same thing. And I'm like, OMG. Do you think it was easy for me to start a publishing company? No, it was scary. It was so scary. I'm like, Lord, what are you trying to do? It was not my idea. It was somebody that I spoke to who said, God convicted me. You're my publisher. And that's how that got started. Because God had given me the promptings, but I'm like, no, I'm staying out of that world. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And when that lady said, you are my publisher, the first thing I did was called a friend. And I said, do you have a publishing contract I could borrow? I can modify. She said, yes. She sent it to me. Then that friend said, hey, by the way, my mother started her own editing business. She might be an editor for you. So boom, I got a contract from a friend and I got a referral for an editor. That lady today is my editor-in-chief. We started it together in 2019, the publishing business. And then I said, I need somebody to help me with administrative work. And I got my girl, Rachel, young college graduate. I'd hired her as an intern for like 3 months. She left. I called her back. I said, can you come work with me? She is my director of services since 2019, of client services since 2019. That's the 3 people that started Victorious You Press, and we had no website. And we did everything. Lynn did all the editing. I did all the publishing. Rachel did all the admin work. And that's how we started. It wasn't until 2020, 1 full year later, that I got a website built. By that time, I was close to a 6-figure business. 6-figure business in 1 year without a website. So do not tell me that you're waiting to build anything. Right? Because we serve a God that is a master at making things happen with nothing. That's it. That's all I have today. I just gave you a blueprint. I just gave you a blueprint. Go back and read the book of Nehemiah. Go back. Oh, my Bible is all marked up. Go back and read the book of Nehemiah. And then I want you to write down the vision, the prayer and the fasting, the ask, seek, and knock, who the people going to be with you, or the thing, or the one person, or the 2 people, because you can't do it alone. So who is your 2, or who is your 3? Who is your Peter, James, and John? Or your Peter and your James, or your James and your John? Who are those 2 people? Maybe it's your spouse. It could be one. And maybe the other one is your accountant, or your bookkeeper, or your attorney. I don't know. Who are your 2 or 3 people? Gather them and execute the thing, man, that God has given you. That's it. That's all I have. God bless you. Thank you for joining me this morning. I'm fired up about this because sometimes we allow opposition and what people say to derail our greatness and our best. And then we criticize the people that are showing up every day and doing their content creation on TikTok. We criticize them about dancing in every video. But guess what? Their dancing is making them money. So that's what I have today. Don't do it alone. Do not. Find your tribe. Good morning, my niece. So nice to see you. Find your tribe. Love you guys. Have a good one. Bye, y'all.